Hey all, here at OS Reviews. You're watching our hands-on review of the Langogo Genesis. This is a AI smart translator that sells for $300 on Amazon. Now, a few months back, we did a review on another smart translator based on Android OS. It's by ErgoTech. This one is a little bit cheaper. It's about $200, a little bit less. So this one here being more expensive is for several reasons. Number one, the display now is larger. It measures 3.1 inches diagonally. It's a full touchscreen device as opposed to relying on keys and buttons like on the previous model. This one also has a built-in SIM card slot and a built-in eSIM. So just like on the latest iPhones, this stands for a electronic or a embedded SIM, and that allows it to actually stay connected to the internet, and you can even use it as your mobile hotspot, like a portable router when you're traveling internationally. You can purchase optional plans, and included for the money is 2 years of free unlimited data for the translation. Now, it does support over 105 languages, and again, it's using 24 different translating engines depending on your location to give you the optimal result. And the translation should take less than 1 second when you're connected to the internet to process. I don't believe there is offline translation, however. So you do need to use either the eSIM, again free for 2 years for the translation, or you can rely on Wi-Fi network. So in the box here we do have a SIM ejector tool along with a quick user guide, and here we have just the Langogo itself. It comes in 2 different colors, black and white. I do think the design is very striking. As you can see there, it has kind of this pebble-like appearance, and then it really reminds me of a Nokia phone, kind of an older Lumia device back in the day. And down here we also have a micro USB cable for charging, along with a lanyard strap. Just a closer look at its design. Again, $300 for a translator might be a little high. We started all of our translation reviews with a Xiaomi smart translator, but that one basically relies on your phone for data. It only uses Bluetooth, and as a result, it's more of a remote than anything. But Xiaomi's version is only $50, and then we went up to about $150, and now we are at $300. So I think that this is reaching a maximum point where if the price continues to increase, it might not be super justifiable. It does feel very solid in the hand. The side here features a oversized translation key. We have the physical SIM card slot if you're not using the eSIM. The bottom here features a USB Type-C for charging, a lanyard strap, and on the other side we have a dedicated volume rocker. Here's the power key. Let's tap on this for a few seconds. And on the very top we have the noise canceling microphones. So it can pick up your voice up to 30 feet away, even in a busy crowd. At least that's the claim. The bottom here features stereo speakers, and that's it. So if you're having a conversation with someone, the other person also touches the same button here, just for the easy translation. Again, it's very tactile and responsive, but that's a slight difference with some of the other models we've seen, which have different buttons for the speaker as well as for yourself. So there's 2 separate keys. On here, it's all combined into 1 button. So as it's turned on here, the screen resolution they claim is Retina. Essentially, that's HD quality, but for 3.1 inches, you can just tell it's super pin sharp, and it is a Corning Gorilla Glass display on the top, so it is very well protected from scratches and external elements. Again, relying completely on touch this time, so we have essentially Android OS underneath that's doing the work, and it has a very customized layout on top. You can't actually use it, for example, to access the Google Play Store or download more content. It is really just meant for translation alone. The main screen displays our time along with our battery remaining on the top. Again, there is no drag down notification shade just because it really is a proprietary kind of UI layer that they've installed. And we simply have the ability to enter translation or Yuri. Yuri is basically the smart assistant, very similar to Alexa or Google Assistant, so you can use this to ask questions. Again, if I tap on translation, that's where you can take a look at your different translations that you've had historically. Otherwise, I can swipe up to change the language. So right now my language is English. The one I'm translating to is Chinese Mandarin, but I can tap on this to go through the full list. I can also tap here to search, and that brings up the keyboard. I think it is running on Android 6.0 or Android 7.0. Not that that's really relevant, but you do get again a pretty small keyboard if you want to use it for typing and text entry, but it magnifies the keys whenever you tap on it. The touchscreen, by the way, is really responsive. Again, it is a beautiful IPS display which has really wide viewing angles, and even if you're outdoors, it still remains pretty easy to see, which is, I think, important because you'll probably be walking around when using this tool, so the visibility, I think, is quite good. So I can change the language if I want to. Let's just keep it at Chinese right now, and I can do a quick test. So for example, This is a test of the translating functions of this device. And we are connected right now using Wi-Fi, so let's pick that up. I can turn the volume up and down, and if I want to play it back again, I can tap on the statement. Overall, the translation accuracy, I think, is pretty good. It is actually translated in a very human way. So they are using lots of different engines to achieve this, and I believe Google is not the primary engine that they're using, actually, because Google services are blocked in certain countries, for example, China, which is why if you want to use this around the world, they went with some of the other options. It is using Microsoft Bing as one of the engines, however. So the voice for speech, I can change to female, and if I want to do a quick test of that now, going back and hitting translate. This is another test. Let's see if the voice has changed. Now, you don't have to press anything else actually to, for example, have the other person speak in Chinese. They can simply tap on this key and it will automatically recognize that the person is inputting Chinese as opposed to inputting English. So you don't have to play around with these toggles. So if we now do a quick test. 现在用中文说一段话. Basically saying that this is now using Chinese.
Say a paragraph in Chinese.
Now, the device does have 2.5D curved glass, and that helps with some of the gestures you can use. Again, everything is based on swipe motions. To exit out of something, you can also swipe from the left-hand edge, and that takes you back one page. That works with all of the apps that you use on this translator. So the glass display being slightly curved actually makes interaction really easy. Now, if we try Yuri now, and we can, again, ask different things like weather, turning on hotspot, along other attraction details. So let's try weather. What's the weather like today? You can see it's recognizing my voice really well, and after a few seconds, it will pop that up, now in a kind of a British accent, but we can see in King County today and the weather for the rest of the week. Now, these are basically all the functions you can ask Yuri, however, so it's kind of hard-coded. It's not nearly as extensive as Alexa or Cortana or Siri because all of those other assistants have had more time to develop. So the downside is you can only do some kind of limited things on here. You can't just tell it to say, search Google for XYZ, do a really complex math calculation, or play a game. It will not understand those things. But anyways, on the right here, we have some additional menus for different features like the hotspot. I can turn it on. Again, allows us to connect to up to 5 other devices that I have, and using this as our router. It's also going to tell us the password and the network name that I can change, of course. If you want to connect it to other devices and then browse the internet with it, you have to purchase a plan or use your own SIM card. But if you're using the eSIM, they give you a few plan options that you can select from. So for example, all of these will last for about 12 days and they will expire afterwards, and it gives you unlimited usage in those 12 days. You can tap on it and it gives you some more details. Unfortunately, some of the information is still in Chinese as opposed to being in English, which I think they could improve on maybe in a software update. But anyways, it tells you kind of the data that you have, as well as the type of data, 3G, 4G speeds, and again, some additional information. So if you wanted to, again, purchase one of these packs, you can tap on purchase, and it's about $3 for a plan that gives you, per day usage. And for all different countries, it's segmented by price. So you can see how Taiwan is a little bit cheaper than, say, the Philippines, $3.60, and if you want a unlimited plan, again for 12 days, that price will also go up. I can clear the translation history log that you just saw there, and I can also export that log onto my device using email or sending it to your phone, again using eSIM. And over on our inbox here, it just says Langogo Translation Records. It gives you a timestamp, and it's saved as a PDF attachment. Language, English to Chinese. This is another instant translation test. Chinese to English, hello, now say something. So it gets you that entire conversation, the time, as well as the languages that you're converting back and forth from, giving you this transcript. By the way, the device also has haptic vibration, even though it's not something that you'll be using too much, but if you're typing on the keyboard, the entire thing does buzz like if you're tapping on a real key. So as we can see in terms of general navigation, everything is really smooth and responsive just because they've really limited the number of features that you can access on it into just core translation and the smart assistant. So for the relatively even entry-level processor probably underneath, it is more than sufficient. Changing the language to Spanish. Now, by the way, there are lots of different variations that it supports that constitutes part of the, again, over 150 languages, because there are lots of dialect differences. So for example, Spanish, there are some differences in kind of Argentina, Colombia, Mexico, as well as in the United States that use, again, different types of slang or vernacular, and it's able to actually distinguish between all of this. You can sort and click through, just like with Chinese, you can change between Cantonese if you're in Hong Kong versus, say, in mainland Mandarin. The really funny thing is you can even find dialects for different English-speaking countries. So for example, tapping on English, you can see that it will pop up for Australia, for Canada, even for India. So for example, Australia, it's just going to speak an Australian accent. So playing this back.
What's the difference here?
So even though it's the same language, if locals can't understand you for whatever reason, you can actually change to a local dialect. I will now try to speak a really long passage, perhaps from a book or from a poem, and see if it's still able to recognize a very complex and long sentence. Is it going to process it correctly? Let's find out. 3, 2, 1.
I will now try to speak a really long passage, perhaps from a book or from my home, and see if it's still able to recognize a very complex and long sentence. Is it going to process it correctly?
So there's almost no lag or delay even through a really long sentence, which is cool. But it doesn't actually recognize, say, commas or periods. Then you have to create a different message by releasing it from the button here. Another feature that's actually not found here, surprisingly, is a standard 3.5mm headphone jack and also built-in Bluetooth, which this model did have. So you could hook it up to private headphones or earphones if you don't want to share it using the speakers. So that means the Langogo is very much designed for kind of sharing. In terms of the real-world performance, I found the Langogo to be faster and a bit more accurate than the Ergo Tech, especially in a more crowded space. So the microphones are a bit better at noise cancellation, and because it has a faster processor and stronger Wi-Fi antenna, it's also able to get about 10% to 15% faster results in my testing. So that's more or less it for a hands-on review of the Langogo. It's definitely the most polished, the most beautiful looking, and solid performing smart AI translator on the market. With that being said, some downsides would definitely be the price. I think that $300 is definitely on the high side. A lot of folks these days can probably install a translator app on your phone. However, again, this does come with that 2-year of built-in service as part of the value. So if you're traveling internationally and you don't have a data plan on your phone, then obviously this might be a stronger fit. It also is a bit more dedicated just to translation, so it achieves faster results, and the hardware is built exclusively for that. So if you do want a dedicated translator device, I would definitely say this is the most elegant and smooth and sleek model on the market here in 2019. But again, it does come at a price. So you can check out more details if interested in the links down below. But for now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the Langogo Smart AI Digital Translator.